Hi. So I think I'm gonna.
Hi, Emmanuel.
Yes. I'm just going to introduce myself. My name is Pastor Frank Huang. I'm from Queens Herald Church in Fresh Meadow. This is my son, Emmanuel. The older one. The older one. I have a younger one who's 6 months. His name is Isaac Huang. And then my wife is Anna. I was going to show you guys a picture, but I didn't think I was going to show. I'll show you my wife. She's the most important.
Oh, yes.
I see her on the desktop.
Yes. It used to be my kids, and then she objected. She said, I'm your life partner. So I said, okay, we left it. So my name is Pastor Frank. I've been in children ministry. I've been in my church as a children director, pastor for the last 9 years. And prior to that, I was doing children ministry / after school director at another church in Presbyterian Church in Palisade Park, New Jersey. And prior to that, I was, my home church is actually in Queens, New York. That's where I grew up in Bayside. And so since I was age of 16, I was told to help in children ministry. And so they gave me a David C. cookbook, and then they said, hey, teach next week. And I said, sure, I'll teach. But I realized that I have zero talent in teaching children. I like it, but when they are in a school setting or in a classroom setting, it's totally different. They become not as cute, and they want to challenge you in everything that you do. And the dreaded, B word, this is boring. I know that the first time I was teaching, I thought, I came up with a great lesson. And then they just said, this is boring. This is it. And so I was really defeated. And I was like, wait, I feel really bad that I can't provide anything or additional teaching to you. But as the years went on, I realized that because of my consistency of teaching, a lot of the kids now that I see has changed. And actually, a couple of our kids came to my church now who are all going to college. And I realized, wow, a lot of times children ministry, we are not able to see the fruit right away. And you're not sure whether or not you're getting it, and you're not sure whether or not they even hear you, because it seems like they're talking among themselves. But all of a sudden, surprised me whenever I ask the kids, hey, I'll say a lesson again, but then they go, hey, I remember you said this, or I remember this. And I start to realize that because of our consistency as a teacher, and we are actually in their lives, they actually see the difference. They see that we care, we love them. And so this is one of the biggest reasons I love children ministry. I love children ministry is because I really see that all the churches need to have a strong children ministry. I see a lot of times when I was in youth ministry, there's always a lot of problems. I always wonder, how come there's always so much problems in your youth ministry? And it's really big problems. And I realized that we do not set a good foundation for the kids. And so whenever they go to youth, when they become junior high, high school, they have all these decisions that they have to make. And oftentimes they make the wrong decisions, or what we feel like is the wrong decision. And so it becomes very difficult for us. And I said, well, how come they don't have any of the foundation to make the right decision? And so that's my heart, to really do training for churches that really raise up better and effective children ministries. And that's why I also went to seminary. I actually hate going to school, but seminary was one of the reasons that I felt like, Asian churches, that's my heart for Asian churches, that I need a degree. I need a degree to show them that actually, learn something. And so now I'm actually going back. I'm still back in school in St. John's. So I'm trying to get my education degree. So I'll get a teaching license. So if I can't talk to the parents in a pastor to the parent, I will talk to them in an educator to a parent. And so hopefully it will be something that they will take heart. I know sometimes it's hard to change parents' heart, but hopefully that's the case. And so hopefully we'll learn from one another here, because I think every church is very different. So I can't say, hey, what works for QHC will work for here. Even all the churches that I've been in, none of them will be the same. There's got to be some tweaking. Demographic is very different. Kids are very different. And so hopefully we'll have a dialogue. I like dialogue before, I do have a lot of PowerPoint. If you really want it, you can have it. But we'll try to see and talk about the things that will benefit your church. I could talk for the next hour and a half, but if it doesn't pertain to your church, I don't think it works. But let me just pray for us, and then we'll go from here. Father, I thank you. Thank you for my brothers and sisters who sacrificed their Saturday to come here, and Lord, just being able to understand the next generation of children. And so, Lord, as we give our hearts and our time here, Lord, may you bless our time, where we see that you will continually bless this next generation to get to know you even more. And Lord, help us, even sometimes when we don't feel as qualified, or when we don't feel like we're being effective. Lord, we know that you are with us. It's not by what we say, but Lord, it's by, Lord, what you are doing inside your heart. And so, Lord, may you bless our time here together as we honor you in all that we do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So
Before you go on, 我就是想讲，就是如果你听得不太明白，可是你想用问题问的时候，你要用中文问对吧？可以的。
你可以用中文问，但是我用英文回。我可以用中文回了，如果可以的话，我尽量用中文回，好不好？广东话可能不行。Well, SATs is also very, very limited. So I just want to go over a little bit about children culture, and I think one of the biggest thing is that even for me, teaching our kids, it's a big gap. And most of my teachers are older than me. They're not younger. If they're younger, they probably don't follow what I say anyway. But if they're older, their teaching style is very different than me. I like to play games. I like to do a lot of different things. But I know who the people who are older than me who teaches, they like to be very systematic. And so today, I want to go over first what the children's culture is like today. And it's actually ever evolving, and I only can scratch the surface a little bit. I think it changes a lot. Even I did parts of it 4 years ago, these slides, and then I went back to tweak it a little bit. I already see that it changed so much. I took so many slides out. It's no longer the culture that they go through. So, and if I go too fast, you just slow me down and then let me know. And if you have questions, you could just stop me. I feel fine if you just stop me, okay? I really like this picture because this picture is a beacon. And I really feel like a church should be the beacon of every single community. It's so dark if you see this picture. And this is what our surrounding is like. And if the church does not do its job as the light of this community, then it becomes all the kids will be in the dark. They make the choices, they make decisions, all in the dark. And so how can we do that? So some of the things that I just want to mention, maybe you know some of this already, but I just want to let you know this is how our children are like. Then we can tackle how can we teach them. So one of the biggest things is that there's this called age compression. So a lot of times, this age compression just means that what you went through as kids, they are now experiencing all these things much younger age. So let's just say drugs, okay? Before, you and I probably got to know what drugs is in college, or maybe later in college, depending on what age group we're in. But now, you're getting to know what drugs is in elementary school, or even earlier than that. And so all the stuff that they're learning, you just have to kind of go, whoa, they're actually learning a lot of it ahead of time already. So this age compression, there's a lot of studies. If you want to go, you could go and look this up. I'll give you all the slides if you guys want, so you don't have to copy, because there's a lot of stuff. Okay. So now, fashion, movie, TV, video games. Originally that target teenage audience are now consumed by tweens or even younger. So if you see a lot of our kids, they're so into games or things like that in elementary school, that's really for, before high schoolers, but now they're consuming it, they're doing it, they want to play with it. And many traits associated with adolescent now, you get to see pre-adolescent, and when I did this, it's actually even earlier now. So elementary school, if you talk about a lot of stuff, they'll know it. If you want to talk about sex, they'll know it. If you want to talk about homosexuality, you'll know it. I think one time, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, one of the kids told me about a term that I had no clue. It's escaping my mind. But it's a term where you could go from being a girl or boy. Huh? No. There's another word for that. Today I feel like a girl, tomorrow I feel like a boy. I could feel like a girl or boy anytime I want. And there's a term for it. Let me try to remember. And I was shocked. I was like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? They're like, well, yeah, I feel like a girl today. I'm like, what does that mean? So a lot of our aspect of absolute is no longer true in this generation. And so they embrace a lot of new form of technology, and I'm pretty sure you know apps, different apps. Every year, every half a year, you have new apps, new games, right? And now they're playing Fortnite. I get to ask them what game you play. They tell me Fortnite. If you don't know what Fortnite is, if you know, it's like killing each other. It's like a tag, ultimate tag, when you kill each other, and then whoever is last wins. That's the whole premise of the game. And then there's also other stuff like dance, they can buy. I just learned that like last week. So they could buy different dance moves, and they really want to buy it because that's how they kind of taunt one another, which I just learned. So I went to look at what this generation is called. It's called iGen. And this is from this psychologist, all here, Jean Quinn. She did a study on this, and I just thought it was very interesting to know. Of course, this is not Christian psychology, so just take it with a grain of salt. So this is just telling you, hey, these are the things that they're going through, okay? So I like to learn from these. She did a really big study, a survey on what is this generation, what are they like? So you could go, this is the book that she wrote. So if you could go, they'll get the link when I send you the. Yeah, you could, yeah, so this is actually a link. So if I give you, you could distribute this, you click, and then you can get it. Okay. So one of the biggest things that she drew a conclusion is that iGen have poor emotional health thanks to the media that we have. So the social media, while is good, but it's also making them compare to one another. And so when they compare to one another, they feel like they don't have enough, or they don't even measure up to what other people have. And most of the time, people on social media will only post the good things. And then for another person who reads it or look at it, they go, whoa, my life is not as interesting, and my life sucks, right? And then so the kids develop this idea like, oh, I'm not good enough. I am comparing to my friends. How come they have so much more things than I do? And especially now, if I ask the kids, what do you want to get? They want a phone, or they want an iPad, or a tablet. That's what they want, because they want to be connected to the social media. And so this whole thing is just telling you about, what are some of the things that they go through and what do they deem as important. And I realized over the years when I'm teaching the older kids, like 4th grade, 5th grade, if I make fun of them in front of the class, now they can't handle it. They go into this rage. Like if it's not even I try to make fun of them. When they make a mistake, and if I point it out in the front of the class, they get really upset. And sometimes they get so upset that they'll storm out of the room. I even have one that will scream. And I was like, what is going on? Before, if I tell them, that's called discipline. But now it's called inconsiderate, right? I'm not being considerate of their feeling. And I'll tell you why, because this is another thing that they found out. So I grew up more slowly too. And so you see that they're very slow into figuring out what other people want. Because most of the time in this generation, during that age group, they get everything they need or everything they want. They don't ever have to work for it. And in our generation, we have to work so hard for one thing, so we understand what does it mean to work at it, but they don't. So some of the things, they like to hang out with their parents, which is not a bad thing in Asian culture. This is an American culture, so they kind of think that's bad. And then, they don't want to get things that they need to get. I have a friend who's around my age, still doesn't have a driver's license. He also lives in the city. So it's things like that. Things that you feel like at a certain age you need to kind of conquer, you're a little delayed. And this is very true for them to choose jobs, right? Especially when they are a young professional or they get out of college. A lot of them it's hard for them to figure out what they want. And they want the perfect solution, they want the perfect job to make them happy. And then they'll say, I'm not happy all the time. And then here is why. So because they care for others, they want to make sure that everybody is like, oh, love, let's love everybody. Everybody should be loved here and there. And so we want to be inclusive of everybody, and especially if you look at this generation, that's exactly what's going on. Why they're getting on board with the LGBTQ whole thing is because they want to include everybody. Everybody should be loved. And you and I won't disagree with that either, because everybody do deserve to be loved. But then there's also an absolute that we know what God tells us that's right and wrong. I can love someone, but I don't have to agree with them that what their choices is right. And so this generation gets very muddled by that. They feel like if I disagree with them, I don't love them. But that's not true. And so there's a lot of things. So, a lot of things in terms of safety, they want to make sure they don't trigger them and things like that. But the good news is, so these are the good news for this generation. They're not as self-centered, and they're not as overconfident, what that could be a good news or bad news in your eye. And they feel less entitled. I mean, that's an in-between. Millennials feel a lot more entitled. And they feel, this group, the kids that we have, feel less entitled. And so this is an opportunity, I feel, that you can do a lot of things in terms of class, like cooperation. So they do better in group works. So they like to kind of be in little groups. They want to help one another. So I don't know if you guys ever use group publishing, EDS. They like to do little groups. So they do older groups, older people with younger people, and they do a little group. And that works well. I use that too. And I find it fine. And so that's how what I think is a good thing. Prior, when we don't work well as a group, we work well as a group now in this generation. I'm gonna stop. Any questions? Yeah.
I think the term you were looking for is either asexual, agender, or gender fluid.
Oh, gender fluid.
Fluid.
Gender fluid. I'm gender fluid. I'm like, what's gender fluid? I don't understand what gender fluid is. Yeah, gender fluid. I'm like, how could you be gender fluid? God made you a girl. You're a girl. But then I find that was an opportunity. I didn't say, hey, you're wrong. Because if I do that, I go against everything that I am. Because then I don't love them. So I have to say, hey, why do you think that? Why do you feel like a girl or boy today? And how do you choose that when you're a boy or a girl? So I want them to think, like, what do you mean? You know, they stop to think now. A lot of times they just go, hey, whatever their school is teaching me, that's good enough for me. Yeah. And I mean, this is the generation that I'm most afraid of, because I even think of my own children. What are they going to face? Because they will have to face a lot of parents who are in homosexual relationship, lesbian relationship, and how do I tell them, hey, you can't love your friend? And then they're going to hate me, like, how come, Dad, you're a pastor, and you say you got to hate your friends? Which, no, I'm not saying that, but how do I help them to understand that? And so that, I feel like that's very difficult. And I don't have an answer, because he doesn't have any friends currently that's experiencing that, but I think about that a lot, because I know I will face parents like this very soon. You know, we're a little deep. Like, Asian churches are very delayed in experiencing a lot of the current culture. So we're delayed. So we'll probably experience it very, very soon. 2-3 years, you will have someone who's a homosexual that comes out of your church. Actually, I have a couple in my junior high that went to college, and then bam, Facebook, rainbows everywhere. And then I was like, oh my goodness. Not that I didn't think that wasn't going to happen, because I kind of knew it, but it's happening. And so it'll happen a lot more. But then how, as a church, we're going to help them and teach them and lead them and guide them? Okay. So I want to, this is a verse that really helps me to comfort me. In Proverbs 7:1-3, instructs us, my son, keep my word and store up my commands within you. Keep my command and you will live. Guard my teaching as an apple of your eye. Bind them on your fingers, write them on a tablet of your heart. And so I always pray this for my kids. I pray that, I hope that they will know God's word, God's promise, and God's love on them, so that they don't ever feel their identity is in the wrong thing. And so I treat all my kids in the children's Sunday school like how I want my kids to be taught, because I feel like they're all my kids. So some practical way as teachers, parents here, what we could do, even though it's very hard. I can't tell you this is easy. Being media savvy. So I love doing this to kids who have earbuds. Every single kid, it seems like they own an earbud, right? And then so I'll just go, especially now it's even better because it's wireless. So I'll just go next to them and take one and put it in my ear and say, hey, what are you listening to? And then usually, most of them will change the music right away. Right? Because they know they shouldn't be listening to it, but they just gotta listen to it. So they're listening to it, and it's happening that they're listening to it, but they feel like I'm gonna say something to them that you can't listen to this. But I don't. I say, hey, what do you like about this? You know, ask them, what are some of the things, you know, a couple of years ago, some of my youth loved to listen to independents, like up and coming, no record, just on YouTube. Any people that like come up on YouTube who's writing their songs, that's the in thing. Now, I haven't been really like asking the kids to listen to their earbuds, but I think you can do that. I mean, you have to have a good relationship with them. You can't just take it. We're listening, you're gonna create some problem there too. But you ask them, what are some of the things that they're listening to? And if it's your own kids, it's even easier. Well, Not easier. Ask your friends. Ask your own kids. They probably have, no, mom, I don't want to listen. So you can ask them what kind of music they listen to. What are some of the apps that they're using? Like, I didn't even know about Snapchat until maybe half a year ago, but I was late already, right? Yeah. So, because I didn't really think about, okay, I need to know about Snapchat. And Snapchat became very scary. So even now, I think, I read up a lot more on it. So now the scary one is TikTok. So if your kids like to make these videos, so TikTok is a little different because they don't protect your location. So if your kids are making videos, put it up. Some of the perverts, they'll figure out where they are. And then if they like this person or whatever, they'll figure it out. So that's the thing. Even I think recently, I think it's Nassau County Police or Suffolk County Police came up with a list of apps that your kids shouldn't play with, or you should be doing very closely observing. And Fortnite was one of them. Because Fortnite, the reason, it's not the game itself, but it's the talking to people. So the talking to people doesn't have any filter. So you can talk to someone who's like 50 or 60, which they're finding out these people actually do because they know younger kids are playing with it. So these pedophiles would go there and then do that. So those are a couple of them. You could Google that. There's so many articles. So some of the things I want to just be aware. I don't know if you know some of these people. Her name is Lady Gaga, right? So why? I mean, I'm a little. She's back in because of her movie. So it's good. So here, when I was doing this, she was like one of the 2011. She was ranked she was named the Queen of Pop. Right? Even now, she's kind of rebranding who she is. Now she's an actress, and now she also does. She's a big proponent for the LGBTQ community. So anything that deal with them, she's on board. Okay, the reason I did this is because I felt like my younger kids have zero clue who he is, but then he's a YouTube sensation. 1 billion view in 2012, it's probably more now. And then the only word that I realized my kids in kindergarten know is sexy lady. That's the only English in that whole entire song, right? And then so the kids are dancing this in this like thing, and then they go sexy lady. And I was like, what? What is that? What do you? And then they have zero clue what they're singing. They're just saying sexy lady, sexy lady. And then I was like, what is that? So some of the things that they're engaging in, those are the things that we have to be more aware of, right? In the beginning, I thought this song was pretty cool because it was like promoting Asian American, right? And it was like, oh man, Korean pop is becoming very popular. But then when I got into some more behind, I realized that, wow, the message in it is not even that good. And then later on, he actually made more songs that actually is even more like derogatory. Some of the songs sounds like different stuff, sounds like curses. He made the rhyme sound like curses, so English curses. Family Guy, I don't know if your kids watch this, but there's a lot of gags and, it talks about different culturally. And so, like some of the cartoons they watch, okay? Even SpongeBob sometimes is a little crazy. Even now, a lot of these Disney movies, you can find a lot of sexual connotation in it because they want to entertain the parents, so they put people and stuff in it. But you as parents, you just have to make good choices. So one other thing is toys that kids play. I know you know what Barbie is, but here in this generation, most of the kids do not know what Barbie is. They know something else called the Monster High dolls. Because Mattel, who makes Barbies, realized that Barbie is not selling well. And then they made these Monster High dolls, which was overselling Barbie dolls. Now, I never knew this until one of the girls who drew an entire picture of a sex scene on her picture. And I was like, oh my goodness. My whole life, I don't have to report anyone being sexually abused. Now I have to go report this girl because I thought she was abused. So I started asking questions. And she was telling me she was watching YouTube, and these are the Monster High dolls, and then the YouTube, they play all these scenes and stuff like that with these dolls in it, reenacting high school scenarios. Okay, anyway, so then I looked into it even more. Look at that. Profit quadrupled, and this is 2013. So now it's even more because I've seen even more stuff with Monster High dolls. So pay attention, toys that they play. And so these are some of the things that they have. I mean, there's even more characters now. I mean, what are these things that, these are some of the characteristics that they want. And, they don't care. I'm doing all this, and these exactly are the things that your kids might be playing with. I have a video, but I'm going to skip it. Okay. So how can we give our kids the right tools? I just shock you with all these stuff. But I feel like God is bigger than that. Our God is stronger, and He is more, even a better substitute with what this world can offer. So in Philippians 4:8, it says, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent and or praiseworthy, think about such things. So I use this in terms of thinking about, hey, what are some of the things that we could do? So I would just say, these things, put anything in this category. Are these toys noble? Are they right? Are they pure? Are they lovely? Are they admirable? Are they excellent, praiseworthy? And if they don't check any of this stuff, I'll say, hey, maybe, just maybe, it's not really right for our kids. Right? Even now, like certain things that the kids want me to sometimes they want me to say or show them on YouTube. I'm like, oh, but do I really need to show you that? I mean, you better watch that at home. And so as Sunday school teachers, or even uncles and auntie, I feel like even this generation is so important to teach them as a whole entire village. Because like for him, I won't be next to him 24 hours. But if someone else who's willing, when I'm not there, willing to teach him the right thing, that is awesome, right? I would appreciate someone taking the baton for me and then say, hey, Emmanuel, that's wrong. You shouldn't do that, okay? I think you have to phrase it differently. If you say you're wrong, they become like really hurt. You gotta, now you just have to make sure your words are different. But then your idea is telling, hey, do you think that's right? So you make them think. And so I think these are the things that I feel like you can incorporate in some of your Sunday school lessons. Even videos that you want to show them, examples, application. Even for you, this works perfectly. For you, especially if you have teenagers, they're going to challenge you regardless. So then you think about it. What are some of the things? What are these things teaching them? Okay, questions? No, he just won't bother me. He likes my attention. So I think one of the things is staying connected. You can ask your Sunday school student, hey, what's in right now? So if you ask them to tell you all these things, maybe last year, I didn't even know what Shopkin was. Yeah, I didn't because I don't have girls, right? And so Shopkin had no clue, and so they were telling me, and they brought a whole bunch just to teach me what are these things. They're so excited to teach me what Shopkin is and a different version of Shopkin. And I was like, oh, this is what you like. Ask questions. Hey, what do you like them? What do you usually play when you are doing this, right? And when you do that, you understand their heart a little bit better. And stay relevant. I think that's important because a lot of times we could refer to our past and then they'll be like, I don't care. I'll tell them about my younger days. Actually, they're very interested in my younger days because I tell them I don't have game systems. They're like, what? right? So they're like really curious. How come you didn't have game systems? And I told them one of the things that I played with a Game Boy that looked like a great brick.
I know.
And then they go, what? There's such thing? And Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. So, as you see, God and Lord says, hey, this didn't just tell us to teach. And a lot of times as Sunday school students, teachers, we just want to teach them. We should train. I think a lot of times if we don't live out the word, and we just tell them this is what you need to do, they see the contradiction of your life. And so a lot of times they pick some of the things I don't do, right? And if you have kids, you'll see that even more. Mom, you said this, but you don't do it. And I said, I do that to my parent. My mom tells me to do this. I said, Mom, you didn't do this. You tell me to do it, but you never did it. So why are you telling me to do it? And so I feel like we need to mold and shape, and then we need to be in discipline and in practice. But how do we do that, right? So I'm going to give you some applications. 5 L's, not losers, but love the children. I think one of the things when I show them love, they notice. And a lot of times, Long Island is probably less than where I was prior. Some of the kids don't have love from their fathers. You know, even now, I think in my church, I have a lot of single moms. They're from China. They're in this like really weird relationship with moms here. They want to learn a lot of English or study here, but the dad will be in China. They don't see each other for like tens of years, and they're like still in relationship. Well, some divorced, but and so you want to love them, show them that love. You tell them you love. Hey, love you. Well, so you gotta be very careful when you say love too now. Even for guys to say to a boy. And so everything is so sensitive right now, right? Like before I could hug kids without anything, but now I'm a guy, I can't hug them. Right? I just go like this. There. Like before you could hug kids and no one was gonna, expect anything. But now we hug them. Some parents like, you hugging my kids. Of course, I only hug the ones I know that the parents won't get offended. But seriously, you have to be very mindful of that, right? Especially when I do BBS or like camp time, because I have new kids, I don't ever hug anybody. Because if I do that, some of the kids who don't experience love, they want you to hug them. But then I can't hug you, because if I do it, then it becomes sexualized for some of the parents. And because they might have gotten hurt before in their own life, then they kind of like, oh, this guy's gonna do this, or this person is gonna do that. And you see it. So in the last 4 years, I see it a lot more. So that's why I cut it off. I just say no hug. Even in my training for my camp, I tell every kid or volunteers, don't hug anybody. Yeah, because now a lot of the abuse is becoming like from teenagers to younger kids. And you want to avoid any of that, right? Because when I'm in leadership position, I think about getting sued. Before, I don't. So when you think about it, oh man, I might get sued, and then something might happen, then you just avoid it. But then you become like, oh, I can't do anything. So you have to be you need to have a lot of wisdom. Some kids really do need your hug. Some kids really need your love. So you need to, and when I generalize all this, I'm not telling you not to hug anybody, but it's happening right now. We're in a society or in a generation, it's very tense, That's just happening. So before, when I show love, because I never get hugged by my dad, I like to hug kids. So now actually, I'm very careful in hugging girls. I never hug them like front. So if I do, I hug them like this, right? So there's like a special way of hugging all these kids now too. So show them love. However it is, they might feel love if you give them a gift. They might feel love if you affirm who they are. Good job. They might feel love if you just spend time with them, play with them. My kids really like to spend time. It's just things called quality time. Lift them up. You tell them, hey, you are a son, a daughter of God, and you are valued. And especially in this generation, you need to tell them even more. Because in social media, you're not getting that.
I like that song.
So this one is limit. That one I need to limit. You limit them, it's not because you want them to know what is the best. There's a boundary that they have to keep, right? You can't just go, if I know you're gonna jump into the water and you're gonna die, don't jump it. You're gonna say, hey, that's not a very smart thing, you should stop. And limit them. Lead them. I think one of the biggest things is telling them exactly the promise of who God is. And you know what? In the Bible, it's just perfect. Every single thing is a promise. And if you don't tell them those promises, they won't know. And if you don't tell them that, they're going to go, well, I didn't know that was supposed to be in my life. I didn't know that God loves me this much. Especially if you're an Asian family. I think this is I'm also generalizing. So a lot of times fathers are not in their lives a lot because they're working. And a lot of times it's very difficult. Even if that's not intentional, but they might feel that way. They might compare to another family. Hey, they go on vacation a lot. We don't go on vacation, right? A lot of my kids actually said that. Laugh with them. And one of the most healing things I feel like is laughing with them. Something funny, laugh. Let them know that this is an opportunity. Sometimes I find that my Sunday school teachers are so serious. They go, don't sin. I'm like, oh yeah, we all know don't sin. But then when you say in a tone, right, that's lacking in love, and they feel like you're always serious. Anything you say, I can't come to you. They won't be able to share with you some of the things that, I want to share with you. So a lot of times, and sometimes kids share with me too much. Sometimes I don't want to know, but then they want to tell you anyway. And if you're a Sunday school teacher, there are some kids that like to just share their whole life with their family and their father and their mother. They're arguing, they fought this week, but then you just go, let me bless you, child, right? Pray for you this week when you go back. I mean, there's a couple of times I know that, a child told me that, they were in a battery situation. Was getting hit. And then so that's very serious. So how do we get that? You laugh with the kids. I mean, this will not make everything better, but you let them know that, hey, I'm not always serious. And when you want to be serious, you can be serious. But you can also laugh with them. Okay. That's my first portion of this. Any questions or discussions, and we can talk about it. What do you guys think? What do you guys feel? I think some of them is very intuitive, but at the same time, it's a good reminder for all of us. Because sometimes we tend to be one way or the other. And we forget that we need to kind of be holistic in all these ways. And yeah, we know we need to love them, but then when they're doing something like that, how am I supposed to love them? They talk out when I'm teaching, when I'm teaching this lesson. Wait, you need to be quiet, right? Listen to me first. That's usually what happens. And then I see that a lot too. So then I'll just, I find a couple of my teachers really do a good job. Just stop. And it's just silence. They hate silence. They can't even stand it. I said, I will only continue when you are ready. And I learned that. So I thought, okay, let me use that. There's another one is that they usually sit, the kids, to give you some examples, sitting the kids in a circle. So they look at each other. They're all looking at each other. So you don't sit with them next to their friends. And then when you sit there, they can't talk to their friends. And because you're sitting in a circle, you see everybody's faces. These are just some practical way in your Sunday school class that you can do. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that you're being live streamed on YouTube right now.
Oh, hi.
Just so you know.
Okay.
In case you didn't know.
I did not know, but okay, sure. So, yeah, questions, what do you feel? And then if nothing, I have like another 17 PowerPoint presentations. I know that a lot of times Asian churches don't ask any questions. So I just keep on teaching.
Good students.
I know, they just go. But a lot of times if you don't tell me, I don't know exactly how can I help your church? And if we don't have this dialogue, you just hear me and you go, yeah, that all makes sense. But when I go back on Sunday, I can't do it. Right? That's not what I want you to go. When you go back to your Sunday school, I want you to do it and do it in a way that is different. Right? If you feel like your Sunday school is perfect, then fine. I have no problem. But I know. Yeah.
We have to fight against their culture.
You will never win if you fight against it. So when I was in my last year of my college, my senior in college, my cousin, who was a doctor, had a Porsche. And he was going to return that lease, and he said, Frank, he called me one day and said, Frank, do you want to drive my Porsche for a week? I said, yeah. Of course I'm going to drive a Porsche for a week. And so he brought the Porsche for me to drive for a week. I went down Jones Beach. I went down so fast. Don't tell the kids. I went down so fast. I thought, this is amazing. This is exactly what I wanted. All of a sudden, I had this voice in my head. Do you really need to go 0 to 60 this quick? Do you need to save 5 minutes from going to A to B? I was driving a Nova, Chevrolet Nova back then. And then, as I'm driving this Porsche, and I thought of my Nova, I was like, yeah, God, I don't need a Porsche for me to go from point A to point B. We'll get there the same way. 5 minutes earlier, who cares? And then that was an epiphany in my head. Now, do I still want a Porsche? Probably. But that was like what God was speaking to me. He was like, okay, you didn't tell me you want to own a Porsche. I let you drive the Porsche. Now, later on, I drove even better cars than that, but then I was like, back then, I only wanted a Porsche 911. Only. And so I was like, oh, this is what, God, you're telling me. Okay, I don't need that. These are all luxury that I can have, but it's not a necessity. Like, if you get there 5 minutes faster, so what? Now, do I look cool? Yeah, maybe, but who cares? Like, it's still a mode of vehicle, transportation for you to get to A to B. And then that's it. And so that in that way, I feel like what God was telling me, I was like, then I was content with any car I was driving. But God is good because later on I got to drive better cars and better cars and better cars. My wife is better at making money, so it's a little different. So God is blessing me without even me knowing it. See, this is the blessing that we don't ever get to see. We think we have to go get it all on our own sometimes. And so one of the biggest things is when you have a relationship with God, God connects all these things so differently. It wasn't under your plan, under His plan. Yeah.
A question in the classroom. How would you do this?
So there's a couple of ways you can do that. I think one of the, I can still tell you that we will not be as entertaining as all the content you have on the internet or video game. But I think one thing is, I think we need to help our kids to see different perspective, right? And I think as Sunday schools, we could do a better job and to pick out things that will interest them. and also using that to teach them a lesson. And, it's hard for the generation before me to do this because they feel like I don't know how to use computers or find this stuff. So I think maybe it has to be someone that's younger that's willing to go, hey, these videos are good to show, right? There's a lot of YouTube videos or GodTube videos that you can show as a substitution so that it becomes part of the life that they're at, but then you let them know that there's another side to whatever they see, right? There's other stuff on the internet, not just things that I was going to talk about internet. But I'll just give it to all of you. You could just read it. There's all these dark sides of the internet, and I'm going to give this all to you. So I think these are some of the things that I feel like works well, right? I think the number one thing is to have this open dialogue. And especially, a lot of parents want me to talk to their kids because they feel like the kids don't want to talk to them. It's because they feel like they cannot have an open dialogue with their parents without getting yelled at or being blamed. Right? So a lot of times they'll share with me a lot of stuff that they do, but then they're not willing to share with their parents. So I think one of the biggest things is that dialogue, right? And in that dialogue, you'll find a lot of things that you'll see. And we touch upon respect their concern and their frustration. You can say, hey, I understand what you're saying, but can you also, the way that you mentioned about internet, playing the video game, I think that's good. And you already know that he understands that's wrong, right? So that's a good thing. You understand he knows there's something wrong about it, right? And so I think those are good startup. That's a starting conversation. And then so balancing the concern, I feel like you're doing that, right? But then I think this video really touched me. It's by a food company, but this is something that I want to show you.
If you could have dinner with anyone living on Earth, who would you choose?
Can't look at that.
Marilyn Monroe. Oh God, I wouldn't have a clue.
Oh, that's straight up. All over.
Kim Kardashian.
No. I'd like to have dinner with Justin Bieber. What?
He did not come to mind.
No, I'd have Bob Hawke,
Dave Hughes.
Barry Humphrey,
Jimi Hendrix.
people who have made a difference in the world, maybe Nelson Mandela at the dinner table. I'm scared.
If you could have dinner with anyone in the world, who would you choose?
Probably our whole family, like a whole extended family. Mum and Dad. Mum and Dad. Does it have to be a celebrity? Could it be family?
We love it. We talk about how school is. We ask Mum and Dad how their day was.
Family.
Yeah, Mum and Dad.
Family. Who would you always like to have dinner with? They just want to be with us while they're eating food, which is pretty cool. They see us above everything. I'm gonna get. Yeah.
Bit of a message in it for me.
Yeah.
So I really like this videos because sometimes we lose the sight of what's most important in our kids' life. Because we have all these things we want to tussle. We want to say, hey, this is what you need, this is what you need, but we forget. Spending time with them is actually a very precious time. And actually, a lot of times we neglect that. Even sometimes for me, I neglect being with him. So I have to be very proactive, purposeful to say, I want to spend time with you. We also live in a generation and we have no time, right? That's why a lot of stuff that we want to do, we want to minimize, give us more time to do more things. But then this cannot be substituted. Even as church, how much can you really change in 52 weeks as a Sunday school? We need to teach our parents. Hey, we need to work together. Not just, hey, Sunday school teachers, you take all my problems and then change them. It's impossible. We won't be able to. And if people think I'm a miracle worker, sometimes God does the miracle, not me. I can't make things different if things have been this different already. Right? People wanted me to make things different, which I tell them sometimes I can't. I'm very honest with them. Hey, I can't change. And that's why this is my heart. We don't start from the foundation when they're kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade. Then it becomes difficult when they're in 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. And then when they go to college, you even see there more changes because there's no restriction. There's zero restriction there. They want to do it, they do it. They don't want to do it, they don't want to do it. That's it. And so this is my heart. I mean, that's why I feel like it takes a village to raise children these days. Like I need aunties and aunts, and I need uncles to go, I'm willing to invest in you. And I'm willing to say, hey, you need me. I need to show you the way. Actually, you know what, auntie and uncles, you have a lot to offer. Sometimes I notice that a lot of kids won't listen to their own parents, but they will listen to auntie and uncle when they tell them. You can't yell at them. But your parents, you can yell at them, right? But if someone else, some other parent comes and say, hey, you shouldn't do that, you're like, they'll murmur. But they can't say, don't tell me that, right? But then, if it's your own kids, they'll say, I mean, there's stronger words in your own family, right? That's why I realized that if we work together, it's a better way of teaching our kids. It really is. So I tell all my Sunday school students, hey, if I'm not near my kid, would you be that aunt and uncle that's willing to tell them the right thing to do? And I have no problem. Are you willing to let other people to say, I want to teach your kids the right and wrong? And we won't be with our kids 24/7. I know that for sure. Yeah.
Pastor Frank,
Yeah.
do you find difficult to recruit co-workers?
Yeah, 9 years I've been at QHC. This is the first year I have enough teachers. I was teaching AM, PM. No one wanted to teach. We went through 2 splits, right? We went through 2 splits and then everyone just left. So I had to combine kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade. I teach the whole thing. I'll combine 3, 4, 5. I teach the whole thing. And then I taught that for 3 years. Until this year, praise God, I have a children committee that's willing to go, we want to release that from you, Pastor Frank. And then so this is the first quarter 2019, January to March, I didn't have to teach Sunday school. And I get to talk to parents. And that's something that I want to really encourage parents to be really involved. Sometimes we feel like we can't make a difference. Your presence make a huge difference. Because a lot of times I feel like in Asian churches, children ministry are an afterthought. They're important because we know we need it, but then yet we won't put too much resource in it. I don't know how it is. I don't want to bash anybody church, but it's true, right? You look at the budget, how much they're willing to put in it. Well, how much are you willing to put in your children? I would bet 30 to 40% of your salary is going to kids. Correct? If not more. Right? I mean, gotta live, so 50% probably like all the housing and stuff. But just saying, right? We're willing to give them tutoring. We're willing to give them all these extracurricular activities. We're willing to buy them all this stuff. But here at church, I mean, everywhere. A lot of churches are like that. And then that's why I want to help. I want to help so that okay, You don't need to have a big budget to do a good children ministry. Forget budget. It's not about budget. It's about how are you seeing your children ministry. Do you value it's an important ministry? If it's valued, you will put into it. And you know what? When you put into it, you'll see the output. Maybe not next year, but 10 years from now, your church will be so thriving because all these kids will become leaders of your church. And that's what I want to see. I want to see my church. I want to see the kids I used to teach me. That's what I pray. I want to see all these kids co-work with me. And I haven't even seen one that, actually, this year I have a youth that's going to be a children ministry pastor. She's going to Moody, but she doesn't go to our church anymore. But I used to teach her. That's something that I go, that's amazing. That's the first one, right? And how is it that we are encouraging now? In terms of the volunteers, they have to see what's the benefit, and you have to let them know. And I think it's easier if an outsider come talk about it than inside people talk about it. So I told Florina, I will talk about it if you want. I'll shock everybody. I'll tell them that this is what you need. This is what I see. The last 10 years that I've been in children ministry, you have a good children ministry, you have a thriving church. There's no doubt about it. If you go look at every single church, why do they have children ministry? Because they know it's necessary and it's important, right? So how much are we going to put into it? And so they have to catch the vision. So, last year, some of the things that I thought we did well was, and I give you examples, and it's hard for me I used to do this. I was younger back then, and I was single. I could do this in my New Jersey church. I would do once a month, parents' night out. I'll babysit your kids for free. I'll provide dinner, and I want you to go on a date. You go on a date, I'll babysit them for free for 5 hours. So I would do that once a month. And I'll change this whole entire room to something like a theme. I did that for 3 years, and I was like, this is too much, I'm gonna die. But luckily, I have parents that saw the vision, they cooked for me. They cooked for 100, my church was only 50 people. I was able to get 200 kids to our 100-year-old church. That's the amazing thing, because if you know what your community needs, they will be all on board, right? If they know that you are for the kids, they will come. And, give you a fruit of that. One of the parents that used to come to these things, they got in a divorce. For some reason, 3 years ago, he decided to call this church because he remembered that this church really loved the kids and loved us. He said, I want to come to church. So he came to that church once again. Now he's an elder, deacon in the church, and now he's serving. Now, back then I wouldn't see that. But look, it's like more than 12 years now. That's the difference. I can't plan out, like sometimes we are very rushed to see things change now. You might not be able to. But when you look back at it 10 years later, you're going to say we did the right thing. We focus on the right thing. And hopefully that's my heart. I feel like, for him too, same thing. I want him to focus on the right thing. Now, probably not. He won't focus on it. But I will still love him. I'll still try to care for him. I tell him, in his age right now, right? He used to kiss me and hug me. I said, when I get older, are you going to kiss me and hug me? And he said, yes. So I'm going to ask that every single year. Until he says, no, Dad. I'm going to hug you and kiss you. So I think one of the couple of things I think is I want to come to your church to, help out in any way possible. Even if I'm not here, we could dialogue in many different ways. Because I feel like even at QAC, my church, we have let's say, on a good day, we have 3,000 people in our church. 400 or 500 kids, still not enough. I want to see the kingdom of God come. 400 or 500 kids is not enough. We have 2 million kids in our school system. We're not even making a dent. So I want to help more churches to realize that. One person won't do it, won't be able to do it. We need more. And and I want to encourage the men of the church to also step in, because when you step in, they see the difference. Because they actually will see there's a father figure there. And a lot of times they don't see that. So that's why it's very special in my church. When they see a male teaching, a lot of kids, they go, oh, this is Pastor Frank. Not too many places will have a male teacher in front. And no matter where I've gone, I found that that's a benefit to me. And a lot of kids, especially now, and in my church, I see that a lot of the kids who have lack father figure, they see me a little different. They react very different to female teachers and to me. So, yeah, so those are things. You have 15 minutes. Let's see. Yeah, I could just give it to you though. This is really nothing. I mean, you read it through and but you mentioned that you want to kind of know what kind of curriculum you use. There's various different curriculum, and I've used a lot of it. I've used a couple of things, but right now I'm using a curriculum called the Orange Curriculum. This is from Andy Stanley's church. I like it because there's apps for it, and you don't have to write your own apps. So you can actually tell your parents, hey, you could go back to with your kids to just pray over this verse that they read, right? It's expensive, and depending on how many kids you have. Cheapest is I think it's $800 for the year, but I don't even think it's that expensive, and it's digital. So you can send it. Now the drawback is it's only in English. So if you have Chinese parents, they most likely. So I have a Cantonese congregation and English congregation. Most of the time when I do it in English, they go, I don't know how to do it. So most of the Cantonese congregation wouldn't come and help teach. So I need to figure out ways like how do I get like Cantonese or Chinese curriculum. So far I haven't found any, but some of the churches right now I try to do is to network with a lot more churches to understand what are some of the things that they use. Yeah. So I like Orange because it has large group discussions, which they give you a lot. They have videos you can show. They have songs. They have small groups, which you could go into. Actually, let me show you. I didn't want to leave here without giving you the curriculum. But I'll send this to Lori, and then you can just leave it there. But I think I'll sign up. But we could still chat too. So I have two. I have a pre-K and I have an elementary. So pre-K does a lot of songs. So if you like that, you go away. So I'm gonna just show you. Like this is March. So okay. Then you talk about hey, this entertaining. At least it's graphics, right? For some of the stuff that we do, like most of the time, Chinese churches just do print out from like maybe a couple of years ago, and then it's black and white because we want to save money, no color. I'm just saying what it is. You know, my church too. Just don't do color. Don't do color.
We say don't waste paper.
Yeah. No, they don't care. They don't really care about paper. They go, don't do color because it's like 10 cents each. Anyway. Don't record that. But anyway, I understand why. But okay, so I really like this because there's family experience that you could go to, right? You could go into it, and then I'm going to show you something later, but so you see these, there's so many different ones. There's small group, large group. So you could do a large group and then they give you something that you could do as a skit, right? And Asian churches don't really like to do too much skits, so it's up to you. You could do skits if you want, but you need to have a big team or skit to work. So there's like different jobs that you could do. So like, man, you'll be able to. So I'm going to just show you this. So every month there's a theme.
When you hear the word service,
And then so
what comes to mind?
you can talk about it. So the
Maybe
whole month you're going to talk about
a
service.
serve that crushes an opponent,
So how do you do it?
or maybe a service you had at a restaurant. Well, what about these? That's right.
So for those people that
You may not
teachers
think
that
about
don't
your
like to
hands when it
talk,
comes to
just
the
play
idea of
this. This is
service.
a 4-minute.
But this month
Like in
we're
the
talking
beginning of the
about
month,
service,
right?
and
So
this is
you
how we
eliminate some of the anxiety some of the
Lending
teachers
a
have.
hand
So you say, you don't have to do too much, you don't have to talk
We
too
all
much,
want our
but
children
you
to
just
grow
play
up
it.
and recognize
Right?
that the world
Some of the
doesn't
parents,
actually
that
revolve
some of
around
the
them.
volunteers
That all
will
lives
enjoy that a
about
lot.
that we
They'll go,
can do
yeah, I don't have to
for
say
people
anything,
around
great, I
us.
just play.
And maybe all
And
we
actually,
need
this is
help
more
is
entertaining
with
for
us
some of the kids
forward.
anyway, because
Wouldn't it be
sometimes when
great
we
to
say
help
things,
us
it's not as
understand
good,
that
right?
we really do have an important role in this world to give, to serve, and to help others?
Yeah.
To get kids thinking of.
So every month it has something like this. So this is February, right? March is made. So what are you made? Who are you made in the image of? And then next one, it's going to talk about bright side, finding light in the dark. They're probably going to talk about this world. How do you distinguish yourself from this world, from God's perspective? Then they're going to talk about mud run is something new. I don't really know. Maybe the dirtiness, I think. So I really like this because of the fact that it has a lot of different things that you can draw from, and there's enough materials in here for you. And you can take out materials or not, right? I don't think you'll finish it because I heard that you only have 45 minutes. You might only need to do 2 activities. So there's different activities for different teachers. Some teachers like to do arts and craft. Some teachers have no clue how to do arts and craft, so you can play games, right? I find that certain kids, they just like games much better. But then, of course, you have to tie into the message. You can't just go, let's play games. Now, right now, my kids really like to play dodgeball, like in one of the rooms. And so they always want to play dodgeball. And I said, they already know which day they can't play dodgeball, right? So these are the things that, what are you going to try to do in order to engage them? So this generation, I know they don't move around, so that's one of the things I want them to do, move around, right? And then so try to work with one another, pray with each other. You can try that, see if it works. And if they don't know how to pray, you already know that's what you need to teach. How do we pray? Right? You already know the next week, hey, this is how we should pray. And actually, I made a whole thing about Acts prayer. So if you don't know how to pray, which is very normal for all the kids, they go, I don't know how to pray, right? Why don't you say something, give a thanksgiving, you know? Is there anything that you did wrong this week? Hey, God, I want to confess. God, can you do this for me, right? And you can say, hey, I want to declare who you are. So if the Acts prayer, you don't know, and if you do, then it would be great. But that's something that I think we can always do. Once our kids see that there's consistency in that, they go, oh, I know how to pray. Now, if you want to go into deeper teaching, then you can go to Lord's Prayer. Say, this is how Jesus prayed. And so you can go that lesson can probably go 2-3 months if you really wanted to, right? Every single sentence was managed as Sorry, he's tired. He needs a nap.
Pastor Bernard, I'm not sure if everyone understands what ACTS stands for. Can you please tell me?
Sure. This is part of my adoration, confession, thanksgiving, or thanks, supplication. So basically you would say, hey, I want to admire God. I want to declare who you are. Second one is confession, telling them, what have I done wrong against you, God? If you look at all the history of Israelites, when you see breakthrough, is because they have confession done. Only when there's confession done. So if we don't do confession, we just go, everything, we're good people, we're good. No, we're not that good. There's a lot of stuff that we go through. Thanksgiving, do you give thanks to God? Do our kids see that we thank God? And if they don't see that, then they're not going to do it in the future. And supplication is just declaring. Just saying, hey, God, this is what I see for my kids. So I declared that a lot. Actually, one of the biggest things I did when he was in the womb of my wife, I declared a lot of stuff that I know I have. And I said, I don't want you to have it. So I'm lazy sometimes. I said, I don't want you to be lazy. And I said, I did all my devotion. I read down all the stuff that I know the words or sin that I see in my family. And I said, I don't want to pass that on to this generation. So Emmanuel, I don't want to cut that off from you. Don't want to pass it on. And sometimes some of the stuff that I didn't say, I see it right now. Seriously. Like I go, oh, I missed that. But you know what? The good thing is God is grace. God's merciful. So I see that now. I just say, God, I want to just pray that over him so that he will not continue that. Right? One of the things I pray for him that I pray that he's a leader. Right? I pray that you will be leaders of other people. But one of the things that I forget to pray that he becomes so fixated on something and he becomes really stubborn. So I go, oh man, I prayed for determination, but now I turn to another thing that's very stubborn, right? And then so I go, okay, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with just keep on declaring these things over your kids, and pray over them. And I think one of the things is just really engage in prayer. I think the first thing I said, if you're preparing your lesson, is to pray. Sometimes God will show you exactly what you want to teach your Sunday school kids. And if it doesn't follow whatever curriculum you're doing, so be it. Right? I tell all my Sunday school teachers, if God is inspiring you to do something else, just let me know what you're teaching. Just don't teach it out of nowhere and then have no clue what you're teaching, right? Yeah, so that's one of the things, praying exactly what it is. There's oftentimes I'll just pray and I go, oh, this is what I want to talk about. I will focus on it more, right? Last 3 months I didn't have to teach, so I don't have any current example. I'll try to think about example of last year. I'll give you an example last week. Okay. Last week, in my large group, I usually sing with the kids. I worship with the kids. I really think it's important. Because of what I talked about, I listen to a lot of music. I went to intern at a Chinese music ministry called Stream of Praise. So I was there for like 3 months. And so, because they were writing their first children's album. I said, I want to know exactly what you do, so I know how to share with my kids. And so I realized that the more of these songs that they sing, the more it sinks into your heart. And I was at an orphanage that was singing all their songs. And when I was teaching it, they go, I don't want to sing it. But then all of a sudden, when they were in the bathroom, they were singing the songs. And I was like, what do you mean? I just taught you to do it. They won't do it in front of me, but they're willing to do it in their own private life. And I was like, praise God. Because in private life, it's more important than showing me that they want to sing the songs. And so I realized that the power of music. So, we're talking about that before. And so how do we do that? And maybe sometimes we're at a crossroad. It's hard to convince some of our teenagers. But if you have younger kids, bombard them with all the worship songs. right? They can't say no to you right now. So right now you have an opportunity to do stuff. And then bombard your kids who come to here and say, these are the songs we're gonna worship. And then so last week I really felt like we need to sing books of the Bible because I feel like they don't even know how to flip the Bible anymore. And we sang the songs, and for 2 weeks we've been singing the song for 66 books in the Bible. And then this week already kids memorized 66 books of the Bible. And it's because we have not given the right tool, right? And I realized, oh man. And then the amazing thing is my intern senior pastor, he was talking about apologetics, about how we need to know the Word of God. And so it was by chance that it would happen. But if parents can even talk about it, I told the kids, you go home and ask your parents how many books are in the Bible. I'll guarantee you not a lot of them will know. Then I told them, you should ask them too, how many books are in the Old Testament? How many books are in the New Testament? So they memorize all 3 numbers, right? So they feel like, oh, we're good now. So they went home and then challenged their parents, and I didn't want to make them feel bad, but a lot of them don't know too. But this is what we are at too, right? One time I think it was David during our short-term mission meeting. One of the pastors asked, how many books are in the Bible? And the entire team went silent. Right? And I was like, wait, this is a short-term mission team. They're going on, but they don't even know how many books are in the Bible. And it's understandable. So I'm not like putting blame on anybody, but that's the thing, right? It's not imprinted in our heart. A lot of it sometimes we haven't put it on our heart. And then so he came to me, I think he was asking, and I said, do you know? I said, yes, I do, because I know how to sing the song. Do you want to sing the song with me? So I think they're going to sing, they have another song that they're going to sing in that short-term mission team, which I think is really amazing, right? So that's it. How can you teach the kids to make them go, oh, I'm smarter than my parents? They will take that and they will run with it. You will go, I love it. I want to show my parents I know more than you. And they get so excited. And this week they're supposed to come back to me. And I'm going to, tomorrow I'm supposed to ask them, how many of you remember 66 of the Bible? Yesterday when I had a kids club in my church, 10 of them already sang the song with me without listening to it. That's how amazing it is. 2 weeks. 2 weeks it took for 10 kids to memorize 66 of the Bible. That's not by my doing. I just follow what God. I have the impression we should know the books of the Bible. Sure, okay. I learn it, you learn it. Let's all learn it together. I mean, I've done this a lot more, so I have a leg up on them, but still, that's what I feel like we need to do. So, yeah, I'm gonna stop here. Questions and then I'll just try to answer the Q&A right now. Yeah.
Have you ever heard of Keys for Kids?
Keys for Kids?
Right.
No.
Oh, okay.
What is that?
No, this is like a daily devotion for kids. I used it like 10, 15 years ago, which is very interesting.
Okay.
To myself. So I didn't go for that book for a long time.
Okay.
That's why I asked you. I think sometimes it's helpful in my mind, so we can, those are books, they are not online. So the kids can read it like one day per page, something like that. If you don't know that one, is fine. I'll check it out.
No, I'm going to show you something else.
For daily devotion.
Yeah.
I really like this one. It's called God's Story. They have young kids, so these videos you could actually show. They're very good because they also have youth versions of it. So if you go youth version, you can see their curriculum is a lot more expensive. So I mean, you could talk about it. I think there's they talk about every single book. They give you so let's just say you're going to introduce Genesis, right? You could just type in God's Story, Genesis, and then it's very theological. So you could go and show them. I think it's better for you if you go on the YouTube videos. But then some of the videos that they have, they also have a whole curriculum for kids. I never used it, I just thought it's too expensive. You know, I had a budget before, that was too low, I mean, so don't get it. I didn't get it.
Anything in like a written instead of go on video?
This is written, you can buy it.
Oh, okay.
But I'm just showing you. I mean, you need to figure out. I think this is a conversation where you talk to, you know.
God's story.
I mean, these are
Jacob and Esau.
These are kids'
So part of
versions.
God's story is about twin brothers, and it begins like this. Once, there were twins named Jacob and Esau, and they didn't get along. They actually started fighting before they were born. Then during birth, Esau came out first, but Jacob was holding on to his heel. That's not normal. They even looked different. The Bible says Esau's body was covered in so much red hair, it was almost like he had clothes on. Jacob's skin was smooth. Well, they got even more different as they grew up. Esau hunted animals and spent time outside. Their dad, Isaac, was a big meat eater, so Esau was his favorite. Jacob, on the other hand, was a quiet guy who liked to stay indoors. Their mom, Rebecca, liked Jacob the best. The Bible doesn't talk much about Jacob and Esau as kids, but we do know Esau was lucky to be the oldest because he had what's called a birthright. That meant Esau would be in charge of their family, including all their money, land, and stuff. Jacob would probably have to work for his brother.
Yeah. So things like this. I think this is pretty interesting for the kids, right? And then a lot of it, the facts in it is a lot. These are very theological, so I really like it. So it's there. So we don't need to reinvent a lot of things because given that we are in a world of technology, there's a lot of resources for us to use. But are we willing to find them? Now, they also have what things like lessons you could buy. I just think it's a little more expensive. Or, I mean, if you feel like you're gonna use it, use it. I mean, they sent me a free one because we have just a children's ministry, so they know they send it to you, and then if you don't return it, you bought it, kind of deal. And then we're like, no, we're returning it. There's a lot. So like this, and then they have one that talks about the books of the Bible. I really like those. So it gives you an overview, passages and chapters, like what they talk about. So these are really good. So I want to just let you know that you're not alone. You're not a church that not struggling, but you're ahead because you want to see things change, right? Some people will just go, it's going the same way. I think we have to be a people that are willing to reevaluate, and I reevaluate myself all the time, and I reevaluate what we use all the time. We were using something else before, and actually I still have it because I'm somewhat of a hoarder. Like children ministry, right? You're a hoarder. A lot of children ministry are hoarders because we're afraid that we will never get it later on because we won't have finances to buy it. So we keep it. We keep it somewhere, and then but at the end we still don't use it. So it's like whatever. But these are the things. These are the things I feel like we can, and if there's anything I can share with you, I'll share with you guys. As long as it doesn't have a copyright issue, then, I'll do that. So, really depends. I mean, I even have like old ones. I really also like Gospel Light because it's just one book and it's cheap. It's like $10 per book. You could buy like 5 of them for every teacher. Lead teacher. So Gospel Light is good.
We have Right Now Media, a powerful library that most of the English congregation is using, but I'm not sure how much children's material they have. I think they have a whole collection of videos.
They do.
Right Now Media.
I don't think we ever invested in that, but I wanted to.
It's not that expensive.
I think there's a feature where all the parents can also show videos to them.
Yeah.
Is that it? Yeah. So I was going to try to get it for every single parent. So instead of watching whatever they're watching at home, they could watch that. But I got vetoed. Yeah.
some co-workers they're thinking to evangelize to the kids. What is your recommendation to how to?
I think if you have no relationship with them, it's very hard to evangelize to them at this juncture. Now, are there special cases? Yes. I can guarantee you I have special cases that will come on that day, and I call for a sinner's prayer. They said it with me. Yeah, that happens, but right now it's very rare. Like, they don't just usually, even when you come to children, I don't think, what's the likelihood that you're going to tell them to confess their faith to God or to Christ? I mean, we already have all our schedule done, and then, wait, you want to believe in Christ? Which is very rare, because they already things set. Now, if you're a very evangelical Sunday school teacher, every week you will ask this question: do you want to believe in Christ? That's a different thing. Now, I don't know how many of those Sunday school teachers you have, which is possible, but I think in order, right now, I really feel right now, if you don't have a relationship with them, they won't listen to what you say. Especially like initially, they just met you very hard. Like they want to feel you out. They want to see what are you all about. So, but if you're able to show them that you're consistent, you show love to them, they hear you out. And they'll memorize everything you say. And that's the benefit. Now, you could be wrong too. They'll memorize that and then they'll bring it up and then say you're wrong. Right? A lot of kids also do that to me. He's like, Pastor Frank, you said it wrong. That's not the right story. They know my testimony. And I said it wrong, and then they go, you're wrong. and I was like, oh, praise God, you actually listen, right? And so these are the things I feel like they can do. Right? These are the kids that I feel like, yeah. So I feel like, yeah, it's possible, but you have to be very intentional in doing so every week.
Now it's like not every week is different. So how can we build the relationship with
So I would say try not to. I mean, it's very difficult because I know volunteer situation. So I feel like one of the things you could do is to try to keep it monthly, if you can. If they show up more, like more frequent, there's more consistency for them. The kids are very smart. They pick who they want to listen to, right? And if you're effective and you are able to speak for the month, that's great because 4 weeks out of that 4 weeks you're able to speak it. They tune some people out. I'm not, just letting you know, they tune you out if you're not interested. I can tell if the kids they tune you out, right? They're looking at somewhere, they're doing something else, they don't want to even hear you. You're saying something, they go, yeah. Number one answer, Jesus, okay. Everyone's okay. Just say Jesus. Right? That is true. It's just funny. It's funny, but it's true. Right. So, all right. So I'm gonna just bless us here, and I'm gonna send this to someone here, and you guys can have my PowerPoint. However you want to use it. Expand the kingdom of God. All right. And then I'll be here if you have any more questions, and we could talk a little bit further if you have any individual things that you're concerned. I know that it's harder for us to talk in groups, but let me pray. Father, I thank you. Thank you that as we gather here together, Lord, we want to lift up your name. Lord, it's not about churches or organizations or what we do, but Lord, it's about expanding your kingdom. And so, Lord, I pray that as we have the heart of the children of the next generation, even the burden that we feel, the difficulty that we face, we say, we want to give it all to you. Help us to understand, Lord, how to teach these children. And so, Lord, we just want to be the obedient vessels that you have called us to be. So I want to bless every single teacher and parents here, but we know that this task is huge. And Lord, thank you for just giving this group of people this burden. And so Lord, we just want to lift up and give it all to you, Father. And Lord, we don't always do the right thing. But Lord, we know that our hearts are seeing your message being shared. So Lord, bless us even as we depart from here. Lord, we pray you will prepare our hearts for tomorrow's service and just teaching the kids that we are encountering tomorrow. We thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Frank.
Yeah, so I'll be here. If you have any questions, we can share.